During a doctor's appointment, Nicholas learns that his son will need a heart transplant. Seeing his boss is suffering, one of the henchmen suggests that he contact Arjun Kumar Varma, the owner of the Hopewell Hospital. According to him, that doctor is the best surgeon in Hong Kong, so if there's anyone who can save Nizami, it's definitely this guy. However, despite being an excellent surgeon, Arjun is an unscrupulous man who only works for extremely rich people and for a huge amount of money. One day, during a girl's surgery, the doctor discovers that the payment of 5 million has not yet been transferred to his account and threatens to let his patient perish. Desperate, the girl's father says he will have her transferred as soon as possible and begs the doctor to save his daughter. At this point, Arjun decides to increase the amount charged and orders Mr. Prasad to transfer $7 million to his foundation's account in the next 2 minutes, otherwise the surgery will not be completed. After receiving the money, the man continues his work and manages to save Prasad's daughter. The girl needed a heart transplant and Arjun revealed that he had gone to Bihar to find a donor. The person chooses healthy people to be donors and eliminates them in order to transplant their organs into his patients. That afternoon, Arjun receives a visit from Nicholas and says that he will find an organ donor for Nizami in 2 days, but he will charge $100 million to do the job, because he knows that Nicholas is one of the richest guys in the country. As the population of India is huge, the doctor decides to look for his victims there, as he knows that any variety of organ can be acquired easily. Thanks to information stolen from hospital banks, Arjun's team is able to access medical information on thousands of patients and use these records to choose the victims who are most compatible with their patients. After some tests, Pallavi is chosen as a donor and the surgeon says that the young woman's body needs to be in Hong Kong within the next 24 hours. At that moment, the young woman is on her way to Visage to meet the man she has strong feelings for. 2 years ago, Pallavi was working in the air control tower at Visage Airport and met Captain Aditya. When she saw him for the first time, Pallavi immediately fell in love with him and, little by little, the couple deepened their relationship over the radio, even though they never met in person. Seeing her friend in love, Vinodini asks why Pallavi hasn't introduced herself to the captain properly and the woman says that the moment they meet should be the most special of their lives. So 2 years have passed and only now has Pallavi gathered enough courage to come forward. That morning, the young woman took a bus with the giant teddy bear she had gotten from Aditya, without even imagining that she was being watched by a smuggler. During the journey, the woman receives an injection in the neck and faints, so the other passengers help her into an ambulance and Pallavi is taken to Visakhapatnam Hospital. Minutes later, the young woman wakes up in the room and tries to escape, but is captured by a nurse who works for Arjun and the woman calls 2 other security guards to hold her back. While Jay sedates the victim, another employee throws her teddy bear away in a storm. Suddenly, Pallavi takes her last breath and her spirit leaves her body. Seeing her heartbeat being interrupted, the nurse tries to revive her, but the woman falls into a coma because her soul has ended up inside the teddy bear. Looking at her face in the puddle of water formed by the rain, Pallavi realizes that she is inside the bear and sees her body being taken away by an ambulance. At that moment, she sees a little boy with a phone in his hand and enlists Chintu's help to hire a motorcycle courier to take her to the airport. But halfway through, he starts arguing with his girlfriend on the phone and Pallavi can't keep her mouth shut. Seeing the teddy bear talking, the motorcycle courier begins to believe that the toy is cursed and runs away, so Pallavi has to continue on her way alone. While walking through the city, the young woman comes across a gang of street dogs and is chased by them. While fleeing, Pallavi comes across Aditya, who was driving past the scene, and the man manages to save her. When the men park the vehicle, the bear realizes that they are drunk and Aditya goes into the house with his uncle. At this point, Pallavi goes after him and discovers that the pilot gives the same gift to all the women he's interested in. That night, the young woman's body arrives in Hong Kong and Arjun orders his team to keep her in a coma so that there are no further unforeseen circumstances. Meanwhile, he meets John, an Interpol agent who has been tasked with investigating the disappearance of people in India. After a few months of work, the man manages to reach Arjun and the doctor offers him money to keep his secret. However, John claims that he will leak the information because he wants to ensure that Arjun spends the rest of his life in jail. At that moment, they both start fighting, but the surgeon manages to defeat his opponent easily and uses a small blade to eliminate him in cold blood. At dawn, Pallavi wakes Aditya up and tells him everything that has happened, but decides to keep her true identity a secret. As he doesn't know the name of the soul that possessed that bear, the pilot starts calling it Buddy and decides to visit some spiritualists to find out how to help the young woman's spirit return to its true body. According to the spiritual guru, it is possible to make the soul leave the body during meditation, but when it returns to its original body, all the memories of what Pallavi experienced as a teddy bear will disappear. The next day, the woman asks Aditya to help her get to her parents' house and find out what happened. However, by this time, the couple have received the news of their daughter's perishment and are holding a farewell ceremony for her. The news reached them that Pallavi had perished in a train accident, but the young woman's body and face could not be identified. Moved by the pain on the young woman's parents' faces, Aditya decides to help her recover her body, even though he doesn't know her. The pilot lost his parents in a plane crash when he was young and can imagine the pain Pallavi's parents are feeling, so he promises to take her back to her family. A few days later, Buddy discovers that the boy she met at the hospital has also been kidnapped and the family was unable to see the body after receiving the news of his supposed perishment. Everything suggests that Chintu was taken by the same person who kidnapped Pallavi and, if this is true, he could still be alive. In an attempt to find the criminal responsible for capturing the boy, Aditya goes to the hospital and leaves Buddy at reception with a note, asking the staff to deliver the gift to Chintu. On seeing the teddy bear addressed to the boy, the nurse who works for Arjun takes the toy to a secluded room and contacts Dr. Reddy to inform him of what has happened. When the woman walks away, Buddy takes her cell phone and informs Aditya about the doctor's involvement, so Mukesh infiltrates the hospital to find him. Meanwhile, the teddy bear attacks Jay and tries to force her to provide more information about where Chintu was taken. Trying to get to where Buddy and the nurse are, the pilot is stopped by a security guard and the man tries to throw him out. At this point, Aditya puts his fighting skills into practice and traps the guard inside a room. Soon after, two other men show up to try to stop him, but Aditya manages to defeat them alone and, when he arrives at the infirmary, he finds Buddy next to the nurse's body. While checking Chintu's data on the computer, the pilot realizes that the pacemaker that was installed in his heart is still active, which indicates that the young man is still alive. The pair then go to meet Mukesh and the man informs his nephew that he has found several doctors with the surname Reddy working at the hospital. The challenge now is to find out which of them is involved in the crime, so to unravel this mystery, Aditya takes Jay's phone and calls the phone number of the person the woman was talking to. After identifying the criminal doctor, Aditya and Mukesh put him in the trunk, but they didn't count on Reddy using his watch to send a distress call to his boss. When he discovers that some guys have entered the Visage hospital without permission and captured one of his collaborators, Arjun orders Chintu's body to be taken to Hong Kong immediately. Following the coordinates given by Reddy, the team arrives at a warehouse full of containers and decides to split up into pairs to carry out the search. However, when the pilot opens the door of one of the containers indicated by the doctor, he comes across two motorized men and ends up being run over. When Aditya falls to the ground, the guys try to crush him with their bikes, but he manages to dodge the attack and knocks his enemies down. While Aditya eliminates his opponents, Buddy scours the area to try and find Chintu and climbs to a high place to enlarge her view. Upon contacting Aditya, the teddy bear informs him that she can see a cold room on the other side of the courtyard and the pilot rushes there. However, on the way, he encounters other guards and must defeat them before continuing his mission. At that moment, Buddy takes the opportunity to run to the container and starts looking for the boy, but she hears the voice of the criminals approaching and hides. After eliminating the guys who were trying to capture him, Aditya goes to meet his uncle and finally manages to find Chintu. What the pair don't realize is that Buddy hid in the box where the boy was, because she believes that this is her only chance of finding out where her body was taken. While talking to the teddy bear on the phone, Aditya discovers that the toy is on a flight on its way to Hong Kong and promises that he will go there to find it. At dawn, Arjun prepares to perform the heart transplant surgery on Nicholas's son and informs his team that this will be the most important operation in the history of Hopewell Hospital, so there can be no mistake. However, when the package arrives at the pier, the smugglers realize that the boy has disappeared and begin to worry, as they find a cell phone inside the box. Along with Chintu's body, there was also a large stash of fentanyl, a very dangerous substance that is banned in several countries. In Hong Kong, this liquid is used in animal research, but fentanyl is not found in China, so researchers have to import it from India. On hearing this, Aditya claims that the substance is being used on humans and tells the Navy captain that a boy has been induced into a coma using fentanyl. Surprised by the report, Nirmal suggests asking the police to help solve the case, but Aditya knows that the police won't pay any attention to what he has to say, since all those missing people have been presumed perished. Just as Nizami's surgery is about to begin, the boy's condition worsens and his vital signs drop, so Arjun and his team need to postpone the operation, otherwise he won't come out of it alive. Just then, Kabir appears and hands the doctor the phone he found inside the box where Chintu was supposed to be. After opening the phone book, Arjun finds Aditya's number and decides to call him and threaten him, in the hope that the pilot will give up on finding him. However, The call only served to help Aditya think of an even better plan to catch him. With Sarah's help, the pilot gets in touch with the guy who was to receive the shipment of fentanyl in Hong Kong, and the stewardess asks for $100,000 to take the suitcase to him. The professional assigned to transport the goods is Aditya, who was recommended by Sarah, along with his co-pilot. Upon arriving at Hong Kong airport, the trio are stopped by a group of police officers who start searching their belongings, but all they find inside the boxes are teddy bears. The real merchandise was transported through the dumpster, and, after picking up the shipment, Simon calls to say that he has transferred the $100,000 to Sarah's account. Now that he has entered the country, Aditya needs to find the teddy bear, who is currently trying to get money to make a call to the pilot. Seeing a little boy giving a performance at the Central Market, Buddy decides to join him to help him increase sales, and they both start dancing together. A few minutes later, when the boy's hat is full of money, the bear takes a coin and walks to the telephone booth. However, during the call, Buddy sees one of Arjun's henchmen approaching and hides. When he answers the call, Aditya doesn't hear anyone on the other end, but he suspects that it is the teddy bear who is trying to talk to him and tracks down the location of the phone booth to try and find it. While trying to listen in on the smuggler's conversation, Buddy ends up being caught and is chased by the criminals. In an attempt to escape from them, the bear gets into a raft and starts moving along the river. Just when the creature thinks it has lost its enemies, they reappear and split up to ambush the teddy bear. In the meantime, Aditya and his friends arrive at the Central Market and split up to look for Buddy. Then, just as she was about to be captured, Chinny appears and manages to get rid of all those criminals single-handedly. When he sees his enemies rising up to attack him once again, the co-pilot puts all his fighting skills to use to take him down, and just then Aditya appears. When she sees him, Pallavi is completely enchanted and reaches out to hug him. Just then, Sarah appears and Buddy is furious, as she has always been jealous of the closeness the stewardess has with Aditya. Blinded by jealousy, the teddy bear picks up a paddle and strikes the woman. At this point, Sarah faints and is taken to a hotel room with her friends. When they get there, Buddy throws water on the stewardess to wake her up, and she manages to unravel a message that was given to her in Chinese. That evening, Simon will take the fentanyl to Kabir, and the two will meet at the Royal Club to carry out the transaction. So the team begins to get ready to infiltrate the club, and when she sees Sarah approaching Aditya, Buddy has to stop herself from attacking her once again. Frustrated at not being able to do anything to separate them, the teddy bear decides to vent to Chinny, but the co-pilot ends up making things worse by praising the stewardess' looks. After posing as a couple, Aditya and Sarah manage to get into the club without arousing suspicion and search for the smugglers, while Buddy observes all the action from a bridge. Realizing that she is being watched by the security guards, Sarah tries to act normally so as not to arouse suspicion and starts dancing with her supposed boyfriend. When she sees the woman approaching Aditya, Buddy feels uneasy, as she is too far away to do anything to separate them. At that moment, the pilot looks at the stage and decides to go to the DJ's table to connect his cell phone and call Simon. When the smuggler answers, Aditya mutes the music and turns up the call so that everyone can hear what he has to say. Annoyed by the calls, Simon orders the pilot not to call that number again to ask about the fentanyl, as he is being watched by FBI and Interpol agents. At this point, the criminal reveals himself and the security guards join him to capture Aditya. Seeing the men getting ready to shoot, the pilot throws a beer bottle at them and fires, causing an explosion. His intention is not to hurt those guys, but to cause a distraction so that people can escape. When the customers leave, the security guards go after the pilot, but end up being knocked down the stairs. During the fight, Aditya manages to disarm one of the guys and uses his pistol to eliminate the other security guards, who appear soon after. Despite fighting alone with a gang of armed men, the pilot is an excellent fighter and has experience in battle, so he manages to defeat them all without too much difficulty. When Aditya believes he has eliminated all his opponents, a new team of security guards shows up at the nightclub, and, once again, the pilot has to engage in combat. While he is distracted by the fight, Kabir approaches to shoot him in the back, but Sarah spots the shooter and uses her own body as a shield to protect Aditya. Just then, Buddy appears and jumps in front of the bullet with a metal tray to save Sarah. The bear then throws the object at the shooter and uses his own gun to take him hostage. Through Kabir, the pilot manages to arrange a meeting with Dr. Arjun and orders his friends to return to the hotel, as he knows that it will be much more difficult to escape a possible ambush if he has to save someone other than himself. Sometime later, when Aditya arrives in the forest with Kabir, Arjun soon realizes that he is the guy who answered his call and orders his men who were hiding in the forest to shoot him. After being hit by the first shot, the pilot realizes he is surrounded and tries to escape. At that moment, Arjun returns to the hospital to start Mizani's surgery while Aditya hides behind a truck. The man has already been shot twice and is seriously wounded, so he realizes that he won't be able to escape. However, just as he was about to give up hope, a pickup truck comes out of the forest and runs over the gunman. Then the yellow sheet that was being used to hide Buddy is removed and the bear starts shooting at the enemies with her machine gun. During the exchange of fire, Buddy blows up her enemies' vehicles while Aditya gets into the truck. Minutes later, the trio are back at the hotel and Sarah manages to remove the bullets from the pilot's body. When he finds out that Aditya has managed to escape, Arjun calls him and tells him that Pallavi is ready for surgery. The criminal claims that, because of the pilot's meddling, the young woman will undergo the operation without any anesthesia and will suffer brutal pain. Aditya immediately takes to the streets to go to the hospital where the doctor works, but halfway there, Buddy changes her mind about getting her body back. The bear doesn't want to put her great love's life at risk again, so she tries to convince the pilot to abort the mission. However, when he remembers the suffering of Pallavi's parents on the day of the funeral, Aditya feels he has to help them get their daughter back and decides to continue. The plan consists of hitching a ride in an ambulance to get through the hospital gates. Aditya will then use a gas cylinder to blow smoke inside the facility and confuse the guards. At that moment, Buddy appears with a defibrillator and attacks the security guards while the pilot takes Nizami's body outside. When he is surrounded by the guards, the pilot threatens to shoot the patient in the head, so the security guards are forced to let him go, because if anything happens to the boy, Nicholas will destroy the entire hospital. When he finds out that the guy who took his child will only return it when Pallavi is handed over, Nicholas threatens Arjun and forces him to deliver the girl safely. The next morning, Aditya and his team go to the airport to make the exchange and Arjun takes Pallavi's body to the pilot while Sarah returns Nizami to his father. The stewardess then takes Pallavi's body onto the plane and, just as one of Arjun's men is about to shoot Aditya, the pilot takes out his gun to take the doctor hostage. To ensure his safety and the safety of his crew, the man decides to take Arjun on board with him and handcuffs him inside the aircraft. What Aditya doesn't realize is that the doctor has placed undercover men inside and, when the plane takes off, the henchmen reveal themselves. Just as Sarah was about to be captured, the pilot appears and starts a duel against those guys, trying to dodge their shots. After stealing the gun, Aditya shoots and manages to get rid of them all, but soon discovers that Chinny has been hit. As his co-pilot is wounded, the man asks Sarah to help him fly the plane while Buddy fixes the ventilation duct that was broken during the shooting. At that moment, Aditya walks around the aircraft looking for other Arjun henchmen who might be undercover and, during the scuffle, he realizes that the doctor has been released. Knowing that Pallavi is his opponent's weak point, the man threatens to blow her head off with a shot and, seeing the young woman in danger, Aditya gets distracted. As a result, the pilot doesn't realize that he's being surrounded by guards and starts getting beaten up by all of them at the same time. While she's crawling through the ducts, Buddy sees Aditya being attacked and despairs, but can't get down to help him. When he realizes that the man is seriously injured and can't get up, Arjun opens the plane's emergency exit to dispose of Pallavi's body. At that moment, Aditya looks at the young woman's face and recognizes her, having seen her several times walking through Visage Airport. Quickly, the pilot gets up and strikes the doctor to save Pallavi. After tying the stretcher where the woman is lying to the plane, Aditya regains his fury and runs towards his enemies to save her. Now that he knows the truth about Buddy's identity, the pilot has an even greater motive to help her return to her body and uses this incentive as fuel to defeat his opponents. After defeating the guards, the pilot faces Arjun knowing that he is fighting his last battle. Motivated by the desire for revenge, the doctor attacks his enemy with all his fury, but Aditya manages to fight back and strikes Arjun until he can no longer get up. Just then, he sees Pallavi's stretcher being dragged out of the plane and runs to try to hold it. Seeing his opponent in trouble, Arjun crawls over to get a gun and shoot him, but just as the doctor is about to pull the trigger, Buddy manages to get out of the duct and protects Aditya with her own body. After firing the shot, Arjun faints and the pilot tries to save the bear, but he can't hold it for long and the toy ends up falling into the ocean. However, during the fall, Pallavi's soul left the teddy bear's body and returned to its place of origin. At that moment, the young woman wakes up and, contrary to what the spiritual guru had said, Pallavi is able to access the memories of everything she experienced while she was out of her body. After 2 years of talking only by radio without knowing the true identity of his beloved, Aditya finally finds her and their paths cross again. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.